Texas ansässig, einem der Zentren für Ölindustrie. Wie gehst du mit Christinnen um, die vielleicht in Bezug auf den Klimawandel eine ganz andere Meinung vertreten als du?
I live in Texas, and Texas is unique for many reasons. It is the most vulnerable state in the United States to the impacts of a changing climate. It is the center of oil and gas production in the United States and one of the top centers in the world. It is also a place where many people reject the truth of what God's creation is telling us. But it's also a place, I believe, where we can make some of the biggest difference. So, what is it like in Texas? Well, one of our state senators a few years ago said this: climate change is not science, it's religion. And Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina agreed. He said the problem is Al Gore. He's the one who turned it into a religion. When people are saying this, what are they doing? They are very deliberately trying to cast climate change as an alternate religion. Why? Because the vast majority of us already have a religion that we're very happy with, over 80% of us around the world. And if this is cast as a false religion, as an earth-worshipping religion, as a pagan religion, if it's cast as a religion, then the majority of us who are true believers will reject it. So that is what this messaging is trying to accomplish. Unfortunately, when this type of messaging first started to circulate a number of decades ago, people said, oh, well, if that's the case, all we need to do is have religious leaders tell people the truth, and then people will change their minds. Because, of course, we know that the Pope released an encyclical back in 2015 that talked all about climate change, about how global warming is being caused by the enormous consumption of the wealthiest nations with repercussions in the poorest places of the planet. So what impact did the Pope's encyclical have on public opinion in the United States? Well, I have a colleague, her name is Ashley Landrum, and she studies this. She found that rather than changing people's opinions about climate change in the United States, she specifically only studied people in the US, she found that it changed people's opinions about the Pope. If Christians, either Catholic or Protestant, already agreed with the Pope about climate change, they thought more of the Pope. However, if they didn't agree with the Pope, their opinion of the Pope went down. Yes. Isn't that shocking? So how do we have conversations in difficult situations, as I often find myself in here in Texas? The only way to have that constructive conversation is to connect over something that we truly share. And here's the thing. Number one, sometimes it doesn't exist. We just can't find anything. And if that's the case, we're not the person to have the conversation. I was asked to address the board of an oil and gas company. And again, my rule is if I can't figure out how to connect, I'm not going to do it. I'm not the right person to have the conversation. So I wasn't quite sure what to do. I sat on the request for a while. I said, let me think about it. I prayed about it. And then suddenly one day it came to me. I am profoundly grateful for fossil fuels. If we were living back 300 or 400 years ago, our lifespan would have been half what it was today. The average lifespan in the UK back in the early 1800s was 40 years, and now it's 80 years. As a woman, my life would have been endless drudgery, taking all day to do the laundry back in the days when people only had 2 or 3 outfits to begin with. Going to find water, cooking food, growing food, cleaning up after the food. Not only that, but fossil fuels and industrialization were a huge part of what enabled us to eliminate slavery, first of all in the British Empire and later even in the Civil War in the United States. It enabled us to free ourselves of enormous amounts of human labor, of female labor, of child labor, of animal labor, and most importantly of slave labor. When I think about the simple benefits of electricity, transportation, refrigeration, being able to see the world, being able to interact with people right now as we are today, all of these benefits have been brought to us by fossil fuels. Just because I'm grateful for fossil fuels, though, doesn't mean that I still want to use them in the future. We're grateful for buggies and horses, but when the Model T Ford came along, people recognized that was the better way. We were grateful for party line telephones back in the day, and I even had one as a child, but now that we have cell phones, we're grateful for those. I still remember when my husband actually gave me my first iPhone for Christmas, I think one year, and I remember thinking to myself, what a terrible present. I never asked for this. I didn't want it. Why would he give this to me? Turns out he knew what he was doing. So I am profoundly grateful for what has brought us to this place, but at the same time, I recognize that while we still need energy in the future, there's a different way to get it. So I decided to accept. I went in and I started by saying simply that I was grateful, that they provided an essential service to people, that many of the poorest places in the world did not have access to energy, and that was enhancing their poverty, that we needed energy today more than ever, but the question is, how are we going to get it in the future? And that completely changed the conversation. I was scheduled to talk to them for maybe, 30, 40 minutes. It ended up going for 2 hours. And they said, you get it. You understand what we're doing. We provide jobs for people. We provide industry in some areas where otherwise there wouldn't be much. We provide the essential energy that people need, and we try to do so in a way to be good stewards. In fact, they said, we even powered our operations out in West Texas with wind energy. I didn't even know that. They hadn't really been blowing their own horn on that. So that was a time when, because we were able to connect, we were able to have an incredible conversation.